Now what you see here is the result of many years of fooling around with chuck boxes. They set up very quickly, they give you a lot of work surfaces, a lot of utility features. That whole kitchen there set up in about 10 minutes, and most of that was devoted to getting the stove and gas ready. Now we have two books that'll help you get to that point, both employing this principle of using a basic camping checklist and turning that camping checklist into an equipment inventory. That's really the key. You notice that most of it goes inside the chuck box, and the big bulky stuff goes inside what I call a catch-all. That could be a plastic tote or a milk crate, whatever. I'm using my worktop box there. But you see what happened is we took our checklist and we turned it into this inventory of equipment that we need when we go camping. So in other words, we went from this to this. So let's look a little closer at what the Chuckbox does for us. First and foremost, it stores about 70% of our checklist. Now, I know you could do this in plastic totes and such, but in addition to doing that, it really should give us other features as well. And of course, the primary concern has to be portable, and I'm going to say that with a capital P. In fact, I'm going to say that in all caps and make that red, because that is the mistake that all Chuckbox builders make. Additionally, it needs to set up quick, give us some counter space, and some utility features. So I went back through my old drawings, and notice I have this array of things that I think needs to store in one box. That's a fallacy, by the way. Two small boxes is way better than one big one. I made these boxes out of plastic, by the way, and they were glorious in their own right, but they were just too big to be highly functional. This particular box was a version A grubby one, and it actually did solve the problem, and it led me to a grubby 2, which is actually the concept of using two small versus one large box. You'll notice what happened is the entire mentality began to shrink down. Instead of thinking real big, we started thinking small, and that's what gets you out camping more often. Now, I've been selling plans since 1991, I'd point out, and they've gone from being things like this that use PVC legs and other sort of stand arrangements that were, I'm just going to say, less than desirable. Now, I would point out that those were functional units. It did set up to give you a nice kitchen with all these wonderful little features associated with it. But the best thing it did was got us to these boxes, which are just ultra cool. Now, you can build any of these boxes from this book, the Blue Sky Kitchen Plans booklet. And it's really the easiest way to get from plans to a campsite. Now, it's not the only way, though. Some people like to design their own, and certainly nothing wrong with that. That's a great way to go. But the key here is you don't want to have to relearn everything I had to learn. You want to circumvent this entire evolutionary process and go right straight to something that's going to be highly functional and yet meet all those requirements we have of a chuck box. So you can either build one of ours or you can design one of your own. Either way, we have what it takes to get you from plans to a campsite. Be sure and check out our website for more details on either of these books or anything else we have. We do sell finished products, kits, unfinished products, etc. as well. Either way, we want to get you out camping more often this year.